Hey everyone, Poindexter here. Lieutenant Meier continues to feast on unescorted Allied bombers, though the Americans do tend to shoot his 190 to pieces in return. This war of attrition continues unabated, in which the Americans' advantage in numbers is becoming more obvious as the weeks grind on. Lieutenant Meier will continue to do what must be done. So, let's get started. Before we begin the playthrough, I need to take a moment to correct an error regarding the rules for fuel leaks. In the last video, Lieutenant Meier took a hit to his 190's fuel tank, causing a leak. While it is correct to immediately break off combat as a result of a leaking fuel tank, it is assumed that you will not have enough fuel to make it back to base, and must therefore make the choice of bailing out or attempting a crash landing. In the video, I landed the 190 at my home airfield safely, which is incorrect. I should have rolled for a bailout result, which I have done outside of the game. The result was a safe parachute from the aircraft. As a result, Lieutenant Meier will miss one sortie while he makes his way back to base. My apologies for missing this rule, and special thanks to SLR Brastius, who pointed this out to me in the comments section. Now that we have that little bit of housekeeping out of the way, let's continue Lieutenant Meier's career. It is now near the end of June 1943. JG-1 has been alerted as the Americans are mounting another raid. The weather is good, and the Americans are heading for Beaumont in France. Lieutenant Meier takes off and heads for the raid location. He makes contact with the unescorted B-17 force and will attack head-on. He approaches his target from extreme range. We check to see if this B-17 is a YB-40, and the roll indicates this is a standard B-17. Lieutenant Meier lets off a volley of rockets, which succeed in breaking up the B-17 formation and damaging the B-17 in the port wing. Lieutenant Meier closes to long range. He targets the airframe and fires. 3 hits are scored, damaging the airframe, wing, and knocking out a gunner. The B-17 returns fire, and Lieutenant Meier's 190 is hit in the controls. Lieutenant Meier moves to medium range. He targets the airframe again and fires. And the Bombay is struck, blowing the B-17 out of the sky. But the bomber returns fire before going down. But with the wounded gunner, the bomber misses the 190. With that, the B-17 explodes and falls from the sky. With no escorts to deal with, Lieutenant Meier targets another bomber in the dispersed group. The target is revealed to be a standard B-17. Lieutenant Meier uses his reflexes to get in a first shot at the bomber. He aims at the airframe and fires. And a lucky hit knocks another bomber from the sky. The B-17 cannot return fire because of the reflexes skill, and Lieutenant Meier chalks up his second kill of the sortie. With ammo to spare, Lieutenant Meier targets a third bomber in the group, and this target is also a standard B-17. Lieutenant Meier targets the airframe and fires. But no hits are scored because of the long range. The B-17 returns fire, and the 190 takes a hit in the engine. Fortunately, the hit was absorbed by the armor, so no real damage was caused. Lieutenant Meier closes to medium range and calls on the assistance of his wingman to help chop this B-17 down to size. Lieutenant Meier targets the airframe and fires. The 190's forward machine guns jam, and the lone hit knocks out a gunner. The B-17 returns fire. Only one hit causes minor damage, while the other knocks out the landing gear. Hoping he has better luck, Lieutenant Meier's wingman fires at the bomber, but is immediately shot down by the other bombers in the group. Fortunately, the wingman is able to successfully bail out of his stricken fighter. Now all alone, Lieutenant Meier moves into close range to take his one last shot. He aims at the airframe and fires. The cannon severely damages the controls and strikes a starboard engine. The B-17 fires at the 190. The three hits are concentrated around the engine area, but the robust radial manages to keep running. With no more ammunition to spare, Lieutenant Meier breaks off his attack and heads for home, frustrated that he could not score a triple in this sortie. We add 2 to the landing roll because of the damaged landing gear and the controls, but Lieutenant Meier manages to land his shot-up aircraft safely. With 6 hits to his aircraft, another 190 is written off, and Lieutenant Meier receives a replacement aircraft in time for his next sortie. We update the player log sheet and make note of Lieutenant Meier's 2 kills, which bring his total score to 11. The log also reminds us to roll for Lieutenant Meier's possible promotion. But first, we have an award to present. Lieutenant Meier receives the Honor Goblet, or Ehren Poko, for destroying 10 aircraft, which gives him another prestige point. Now, we will roll for Lieutenant Meier's promotion. This requires rolling 1 d6 die. On a modified roll of 1, 2, 3, or 4, Lieutenant Meier will be promoted. The modifiers for this particular roll will be -1 for having 10 kills during this period, another -1 for having the Iron Cross, First Class, and a final -1 for the newly acquired Honor Goblet, for a final -3 modifier. And despite the roll of 6, which makes the final total of 3, Lieutenant Meier is promoted to Captain, which adds another prestige point. Well done, Captain Meier. It is now July 1943, and the new month means the shuffling of the combat cards. And we begin our first sortie of the month. The weather is good, and the Americans are back, heading for Hanover in the Bremen area. Captain Meier takes off and makes his way to the raid location, and makes contact with the force in an advantaged position. Referring to the aircraft target chart, we see that all bomber raids will consist of B-17s only, so there will be no need to roll for type, with P-47 escort fighters appearing in the castle area, which means this raid is unescorted. But the asterisk indicates that we still roll for the presence of YB-40 gunships. Captain Meier approaches his bomber from extreme range. As we have encountered this raid in an endurance box with the flak symbol, we first roll for any possible flak damage to the target B-17. And we roll a 3. Subtracting 3 from this result means that the B-17 has taken no flak hits. Next, we roll for the YB-40 status. And a roll of 8 signifies this bomber is a standard B-17. Captain Meier fires his rockets at the formation. But the rocket attack misses and has no effect on the bomber group. Captain Meier moves to long range in an advantaged position, which means he will fire first in this round. He lines up on the airframe and fires. The one hit strikes the bomber's controls. The B-17 returns fire. And Captain Meier is seriously wounded in the hail of gunfire. He immediately breaks off and makes his way back to base. And despite the serious wound, manages to land safely. Rolling snake eyes on any chart is usually never good. And in Captain Meier's case, it's permanent, as his wounds require him to be medically retired after a double amputation. We make note of Captain Meier's final sortie in the player's log, and we say a final goodbye to a promising German pilot lost to the rigors and fate of war. With his promotion to captain, Wendell Meier finished his career as leader of a Staffel, or squadron, consisting of around 12 aircraft. His rising star fell quickly, however, due to his career-ending injuries. He finishes his tour with 11 kills, all bombers. He was combat active for 4 months and flew a total of 10 sorties. The Luftwaffe's eventual demise as an effective fighting force came to an end largely due to the attrition rate of their pilots. There were other factors, such as shortages of fuel near the end of the war, the fact that Germany was constantly fighting on multiple fronts that required more resources than they could possibly ever produce, and the fact that they were simply outnumbered. But the high loss of skilled pilots and the rushed means of replacing them meant that pilots such as our Captain Meier were living on borrowed time. The odds of them living until the end of the war were terribly low, and that is what Interceptor Ace models very well in this game: the fight against nearly hopeless odds and the struggle to survive them. Perhaps Captain Meier is fortunate in that his crippling wounds may have actually saved his life. Thanks to all of you for watching this series, and special thanks to Gregory Smith for creating such a fun and relatively quick-playing single-player game. And I am very eager to play the next game in the series, Western Front Ace, of which I will definitely be showcasing in the future. So, to all of you out there, thanks for watching, and we'll talk again soon.